The coffee cup that slipped. Here is what you will take away from this story. How keeping your hands too clean can cost you the very trust you tried to protect. Author Daniel Kim, storyteller. You will hear how a spotless reputation can suddenly feel like a noose once people see who is really wiping the table. I was 28 when I first stepped into the echoing marble lobby of Halcyon Holdings. My new boss, Mr. Cole, greeted me with the whitest smile I had ever seen. He wore spotless navy suits, never raised his voice, and every handshake ended before any sweat could form. In my first week, I noticed something odd. When the accountants argued over budget cuts, Cole excused himself to take an urgent call. When angry clients arrived, he sent our most talkative sales rep to meet them. If a project blew up, Cole's signature was somehow never on the damning email thread. I admired him for that. He seemed untouchable, and I wanted that magic shield for myself. One April morning, the board demanded we fire 30 call center staff before the quarterly report. Cole called me and two other junior managers into his glass office. He spoke softly, almost regretfully. I need volunteers who can handle personnel restructuring. The word sounded like surgery, not sacking. The other two managers stared at their notebooks, pens frozen. I wanted to impress him, so I said I would deliver the notices. Cole's smile warmed the whole room. You have a bright future here, Daniel. He slipped me a crisp envelope with the company logo. Inside were the termination letters, already printed and signed by our HR director, a tired woman who hated conflict. My stomach turned, but I told myself this was leadership training. I walked down to the fourth floor that afternoon and handed out the letters. One woman cried on my shoulder, mascara on my shirt. A young father asked how he would pay rent in 2 weeks. I kept thinking of Cole's proud nod, and I finished the job. The next day, the local paper ran a small headline: Halcyon slashes jobs, management silent. Cole forwarded the article to the entire department with a single line: Unfortunate media spin, please focus on our growth strategy. No one traced the decision back to him. My own parents texted, saw the news, tough time, hope you aren't involved. I realized my name sat on those letters, not his. 2 months later, we landed a huge telecom contract. The celebration dinner was in the city's most expensive steakhouse. Mid-meal, Cole stood, tapped his glass, praised teamwork, then singled me out. Daniel here executed a complex restructuring that fortified our margins. Applause rippled around the long table. I smiled, yet the claps felt heavier than rocks. After dessert, I walked to the restroom. Inside, the finance director was leaning over the sink. He looked at me in the mirror, eyes red. You know, he wanted you to swing the axe so his ledger stayed clean. I splashed water on my face, but the words stuck like grit. The following quarter, revenue dipped again. This time, Cole picked a new scapegoat: logistics manager Rosa. She had worked 15 years for the company, knew every freight route. A supply error occurred, packages delayed, customers furious. Cole emailed the board a detailed analysis pointing to oversight failures under Rosa's supervision. The board demanded her resignation within 48 hours. Rosa sobbed quietly while security watched her pack her desk. I caught her in the elevator bay, offered to help carry her plant. She shook her head and whispered, "Your turn will come." I watched the elevator doors close, heart pounding, and for the first time I wondered what happened to people who served as other people's stains. Weekends became strategy sessions. Cole played golf with investors, always taking a junior exec to drive the cart and carry the blame if scores or stocks dropped. Inside the office, he spoke in airy terms about strategic pivots. He never typed the actual layoff emails, never chaired the redundancy meetings, never signed apology letters to clients. He hovered above the mess like a balloon, tethered by nothing. I started noticing the small things. The way he wiped his palms with sanitizer after every handshake, how he asked it to delete browsing history on shared laptops, how he forwarded chain emails with the top history trimmed. Clean hands were not a metaphor to him. They were a religion. Autumn came. A rumor spread that headquarters would merge our branch with a rival and slash half the senior roles. Promotion interviews were scheduled for months. I was shortlisted, along with the finance director and one of the longest-serving engineers. Cole called me into his office on Friday afternoon. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "There's a small issue with budget misreporting in the European ledger," he said. "If the board discovers it, we all look incompetent." My pulse thudded. He slid a flash drive across the table. "Correct the numbers before audit, but don't log in under your own credentials." I stared at the tiny black rectangle. For the first time, I saw every coffee cup I had ever fetched for him, every meeting I had chaired so he could vanish, every worker who had looked at me with anger because my signature sat on their dismissal. I realized my hands were already dirty, and he would never share the soap. I picked up the flash drive. Instead of heading home, I walked straight to the finance director. We spent the weekend cross-checking files, printing screenshots, saving encrypted duplicates. On Monday morning, before promotion interviews began, the board received an anonymous envelope containing evidence that Cole had authorized shifting costs between quarters to boost his bonus. They suspended him pending full audit. He packed his belongings silently, still spotless, still unfazed. Before leaving, he looked at me and smiled the same white grin, as if dirt could never stick to porcelain. The board appointed the finance director as interim manager. He offered me Cole's former corner office. I declined. I asked to return to the product team, where we designed phones instead of careers. People asked why I gave up the prestige. I told them about the woman's mascara on my shirt, the young father's rent, Rosa's plant in the elevator. I told them how easy it is to scrub dirt off skin, but impossible to rinse it from memory. The board never learned my role in exposing Cole, and I did not ask for credit. The lesson itself felt like a promotion. A year later, I ran into Cole at a coffee shop. He wore a new suit, still immaculate, and introduced himself as consultant for a startup. He spoke of leveraging synergies without blinking. I shook his hand, looked him in the eye, and did not reach for the sanitizer. We parted ways. As I walked back to the office, sunlight bounced off the glass towers. I thought about power, about how it sometimes feels like wearing white gloves while others bleed on the factory floor. And I thought about the day I almost became those gloves. Summary: trying to stay perfect by letting others take the fall feels smart, until people link your spotless name to every hidden stain. Real power is built on the trust that you will own your choices, not on the hope that no one will notice the fingerprints you erased.